Have you ever heard of the Magnitsky Law? This is one of the most powerful legislation of the United States. It allows applying severe sanctions against people from any country who have committed serious human rights violations or remain in high-level configurations. And recently, the name of Minister Alexandre de Moraes of the Federal Supreme Court of Brazil appeared at the center of a controversy involving exactly this law. But what does this mean in practice? What is this law? Who she already hit? And because the name of a Brazilian minister would be mentioned in such a delicate context, if you want to understand all this in detail, stay with me until the end. The story begins in 2009 with the death of a Russian lawyer called Sergei Magnitsky. He had denounced a billionaire corruption scheme involving Russian government officials. As an answer, was arrested, tortured, and ended up dying in prison. International outrage was immediate. In 2012, the United States has passed a law named after him, Magnitsky Act. Initially, the law applied only to Russia, but in 2016, has been expanded to become a global Magnitsky Act. From there, any individual in the world could be punished for as long as they exist evidence of involvement in systemic or serious human rights violations. Law enforcement is conducted by the State Department and the United States Treasury Department. They analyze allegations received from parliamentarians, NGO journalists, and even ordinary citizens, if they find enough evidence, may include someone's name in the SDN list, specially designated nationals. And what does it mean that persons' assets in the United States are frozen? She cannot enter American territory. US-based companies cannot do business with her. And it doesn't matter if the person is president, general judge, or billionaire. If found guilty, shall be sanctioned. Since it was created, Magnitsky Law has already been used against powerful figures. Worldwide, the president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, industries linked to the North Korean regime, military officers in Myanmar, Venezuela, China, and Iran, judges and politicians involved in corruption scandals in several countries. Is one diplomatic tool used with force, including US allies, such as Saudi Arabia or the Philippines, i.e., does not depend on political intelligence, depends on the severity of the case and the strategic interest assumed. Now let's talk about Brazil. In 2024 and 2025, several American parliamentarians, including senators and deputies, recently receiving complaints against the minister, Alexandre de Moraes, of the STF. These beliefs cite measures such as the closure of social networks and personal accounts of journalists and politicians, the opening of surveys, no definition clear of accusation, prolonged preventive detentions, censorship of digital platforms, groups linked to freedom of expression. Denounced that the actions of Alexandre de Moraes were introduced, exceeding legal limits, and compromising fundamental principles of individual freedom. Among the charges are the closure of social networks and personal accounts of journalists and politicians, the opening of investigations without formal accusation, prolonged preventive detentions, and censorship of digital platforms. These rocks have been formally forwarded to the United States government, and now Alexandre de Moraes has been officially included in the sanctions list, the Global Magnitsky Act, one of the strictest laws in the world against abuses of power and impunity. The measure was dubbed the financial death law. For withdrawing the sanctioned virtually all access to the international financial system. Characteristics and impacts. Inclusion in the list of sanctions has immediate effects. All goods connected with it in the United States are frozen. He is banned from entering American territory. Global companies based in the EU. How card operators, technology giants and financial institutions are prevented from maintaining any commercial relationship with him, more than penalizing one person. This sanction represents one public charge: that one judicial authority violated international standards of freedom and justice. This generates one direct magnetic impact. In addition to raising discussions on national sovereignty, independence between the powers, and the limits of external influence on internal decisions. Magnitsky law enforcement against a minister of a Supreme Court is an unprecedented and symbolic fact. It shows how decisions made within one country can trigger global repercussions. This law is not just one punishment tool. She is one message to the world. Abuses of power will not go unnoticed and will have real consequences. This case also invites us to reflect. To what extent national institutions can act without accountability? What is the role of democracies in protecting fundamental freedoms, and how to balance sovereignty with international responsibility? If you liked of this content and wants to follow more topics like this involving justice, international policy and political jail, leave your like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Share with whom you need. Understand what is really going on. Quality information makes the difference. Until the next